PCOS, you have a problem with insulin resistance, where that can then further disrupt hormones. It can also make it difficult to ovulate or to ovulate regularly. The surface of the ovaries, due to imbalance of estrogen and androgens, can also become harder, which makes it more difficult for the egg to be released from the follicle, which results then in those cyst-like appearance or pearl-like appearance on the ovaries. And there's, there are lots of other symptoms, that can fall under that one umbrella. And you need to have 5 or 6 different symptoms to actually be diagnosed with PCOS, because you can have cysts, ovarian cysts, without having PCOS, or you can have hormonal imbalances, or you can have anovulatory cycles without having PCOS. So, you need to tick a few boxes before you're diagnosed with it. But it's the consumption of carbs and sugars that has the worst impact on women with PCOS, because of that imbalance with the insulin. And so, they do best when they're eating predominantly, paleo type diet. So there's protein, there's leafy greens, and they don't have too many starches, and also not too much fruit. That's the other thing that's quite confusing, because we were always told fruit is healthy, fruit is full of nutrients and enzymes and water, it's the superfood. However, fruit unfortunately also has lots of fructose, and fructose can't be readily used by all of our cells in the body. It needs to travel to the liver, where it's broken down and turned into triglycerides. And those triglycerides are then secreted into the bloodstream. And when you get your cholesterol checked, then they also check your triglycerides to measure your risk of heart disease. And also, too many triglycerides and elevated cholesterol fall into that metabolic syndrome. And you see that a lot in women with PCOS. So they also tick that box as well. And so your best bet is to, first of all, look at your consumption of refined carbs and fruit, and also carbohydrates in general. It doesn't have to be a refined carb. You could be eating a whole wheat bread. That doesn't matter, if it contains all the carbs in there, that they're going to spike your insulin and they're going to make PCOS worse. And then you also need to be mindful of dairy, because dairy is, strictly speaking, breast milk of another species, which is full of hormones, and it's full of insulin growth factors. And insulin growth factors are there to help the young of that species grow into an adult animal. In adult humans, all that insulin growth factors do is they, predispose us to weight gain, because we're not growing anymore. So we got to grow somewhere. Mm. And also, if you have any tumors that responds to that insulin growth factor, they will get bigger. So if you have benign cysts or fibroids, they tend to grow when they come into contact with it. So that's why dairy is also best eliminated from your diet with PCOS. And then you should also be mindful of pesticides in your food, because they behave as xenoestrogens, which means that they can dock onto the estrogen receptors on your cells and have the same effect as estrogen does. So PCOS is also considered to be one of those conditions of excess estrogen, where the cyst can get worse. So it just, again, depends on which symptoms you're presenting with. So, what's the case for you? Are you overweight or not? Do you have insulin resistance or not? Do you have cysts? Do you have regular cycles or not? So you got to look at all these different presentations to find, what's the right diet for you, what's the right approach, and take it from there.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the paleo diet. Is there any books that you can recommend if someone wants to be introduced to a paleo lifestyle? I know.
I don't know the books exactly, but there is, I think
Pro-
there's a really good website, Paleo Hackers or Paleo Hacks, or just, with recipes. I just find that
okay.
website quite useful because it gives people an easy access to, some breakfast, lunch, and dinner ideas,
Hmm.
and to get going on that. And then ketogenic diet is also, very good because it includes lots of good quality fats, and fats give you lots of energy. Um, Paleo diet has probably more protein than ketogenic diet, but they're, versions of the two or somewhere in between. The main thing, just to keep things simple, is to really, cut out your bread and pasta. Not all, you can have a cheat day once a week where you can have your gluten-free pasta, if it's made from buckwheat or quinoa, or you can have, sweet potatoes occasionally. But, the main diet should be based around good quality proteins. So, meat, fish, chicken, and, this should all be organic or grass-fed and wild, if we're talking about fish, so not farmed. Lots of leafy greens. So vegetables which grow above the ground, they should, be the main part of your diet rather than veggies below the ground. Carrots are a bit of an exception there. You can have carrots from time to time in beetroots, but, not every single day. And it's best not to spike your insulin first thing in the morning. So it becomes kind of a form of intermittent fasting where you allow your insulin to come down while you're sleeping, and then you try to keep that low insulin state until lunchtime. And that way your body's burning fat, but you're also getting your energy from fat. So if you're having things like coconut or MCT oil in the morning, or just some protein with leafy greens or avocados and smoked salmon, this is going to give you energy, but they're not going to spike your insulin.